Right, got a few more videos to crank out, and let's start off with the ones I was actually planning on doing today, shall we? So let's talk about when to make things illegal. Now, legality is purely a question of law. Now, what is the law? Well, it's something that exists to enforce the will of the state. Those rules and regulations that the state sets up in order to keep people in line. Well, in order for the state to be efficient, its will must be reflected as a concentrated and specialized role. It must have a role that is focused and specialized to a specific task. If the state does everything, it will gradually become more and more inefficient as it expands its role. Similar to a monopoly. If it overstretches, it starts to fracture, starts to break. And so, the state needs to focus, find its path, and pursue it. Now, making things illegal can reduce things, but it can never eliminate completely. That said, the specific role of the state does include and must include law enforcement, and specifically the concentration of the law. It needs to focus on those laws and enforce them, because that reduction depends heavily on how much the state is willing to enforce its rules. If you have, let's say, it illegal to walk out on the street at 8 p.m., let's say, so you have a curfew, but you have no one checking the streets, no one recording anything, no enforcement, that law may as well not exist. It doesn't matter. So similar to the will of the state, the law must be concentrated, specialized, focused on what's important. And so, given the above, what should be illegal are those specific and noticeable actions which cause problems for the state and the people under it. And these actions are those which violate the natural rights of the people and those which damage another. Like, for example, lying under oath, deceiving people, basically tricking them. That is what's important. To give an example of something that is bad but should be legal because it's inefficient to try to enforce it, I got a question for you. Do you think that burning the American flag in the United States as an American should be illegal? I do not. It's freedom of expression, a natural right of the people. Does that mean I support it? Heck no. Frankly, I would be more than fine with that person getting punched. But should the state do the punching? No. That's inefficient. If it constantly goes around trying to defend its honor, it'll just waste its time instead of stopping those who do bad things that are also illegal. Like, for example, murders, thefts, those things which do violate others' rights. And I mean specifically natural rights, not the human rights that people love to talk about. Natural rights. Negative liberty, as it is called. Those things which others cannot defy for you. Freedom of association, freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. Those are natural rights, and those which damage those rights are not only traitors, but damaging to the state itself because they assert their inequality and the superiority of themselves over the people in the state, or rather under the state's organization. That is basically the equivalent of saying that they are above the state. Yeah, no, the state should not allow such things. When we draw political parallels, go right ahead, I won't stop you. But, in essence, illegality should be heavily focused on that, which is, well, against the natural rights of the people. If it violates someone's natural rights, it should be illegal, it should be punished. If it is essentially a trick, lying under oath, deception, false claims, etc., libel, there should be punishment too. Because to allow such things is to allow, essentially, the state to be taken advantage of. And for people to be exploited by essentially lying and then getting their way, and revealing the lie, or simply not following what they actually said in their own actions later. That is what should be enforced. If the state tries to enforce every little thing we find wrong, it'll run itself ragged. That's not practical. What you want instead is for the state to enforce specific things, target those things, and crush them. Yes, this wouldn't necessarily mean that certain laws we have should not exist. I won't deny it. But importantly, when those laws were established, they weren't thinking of this framework. And I understand that, and I disagree for the exact reason given. The state must be efficient. If it's constantly trying to do everything, it will break itself. We don't need a broken state. You could argue we don't need a state at all, fine. But a broken state is worse than an efficient one, than one that's together, functional, and efficient. Because at least the efficient state can be easily directed to minimize damage to its own people. A broken state just hurts everyone, and that's not beneficial. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.